Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Book Review Blog. I am your book reviewer, and today we're going to read or review the book 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. This book is fairly new in circulation. I believe this was done in 2011, and since its first book, and there's two other ones following it, it has gotten a lot of views from the news and a lot of reviews from just different people based on the content. And I was in the library recently, and I just kind of saw it, and I said, "Oh, let's figure out what all the fuss is about and what this is about." So I just decided to pick it up, and I've read it, and I'm here to review it. It's funny because nobody ever thinks, "Oh, this book is just because of its nature," and nobody ever reads this for the plot. But I'm just going to kind of tell you what it's about before we dive into the fun, real things of what this book is about. What happens in this book is a young woman named Anastasia Steele, who is getting ready to graduate from college from the University of Washington State, or Washington State University in Vancouver, Washington. And she is put in the situation of conducting an interview with this major CEO of this big company, and his name is Christian Grey. And her roommate, Catherine Kavanaugh, who is a journalism major and also is ready to graduate, was supposed to do the interview, but she ended up being sick. So Anastasia's a little perturbed by that she has to now do Catherine's job for her. And she goes into this interview knowing nothing about Mr. Grey, about anything of what his company does, and what he's about. So one of the first things that she notices about him is how good looking he is and how young he is. She's about 21 or 22, and I believe that later on he says that he's about 26, 27. So, I mean, for a CEO of a company, that is very young. And so she asks him a couple of questions, and basically just reading off of a script. And his answers intrigue her, and he is also intrigued by her. And he's a little bemused by the fact that she isn't doing this by herself. She's doing this as for her roommate. And so the interview is done, and she just kind of is taken aback by just, again, that she's met this very beautiful man who's very young, and goes back to her roommate, and Catherine is saying, "Oh, like, how was it?" And she's like, "Oh, it was fine." And they discuss about it, and and Anastasia continues on her kind of merry way of getting ready to graduate. Well, she and Christian Grey kind of bump into each other a couple of times, and he appears at her work, and he, like, just kind of coincidentally, according to him, and he appears at other functions that she's doing, and he is the one that's going to be in charge of handing her diplomas at graduation. And but one of the things that he's like, "I found myself very drawn to you because of since our interview, but there's got to be something that you've got to know about me. You really shouldn't like me, or you really should stay away from me." And she's kind of interested about that, because she's like, "I find no reason not to stay away, or I find no reason to be drawn to you." To me, at this point, it was very similar to the Edward and Bella situation in Twilight, and that was kind of annoyed me a little bit, because, again, sort of like Bella, Anastasia is very drawn to Christian's good looks, and I think both characters refer to their males as Adonises, which, to me that was kind of annoying. And both males, Christian and Edward, have told their females that you really should stay away from me. I'm not the right person for you. But like Bella, Anastasia can't seem to stay away, and neither can Christian. And so they have dinner a couple days after they interview, and he tells her a little bit more about himself, and which isn't very much. He's very close-lipped about his life, and definitely about his personal life. And one of the things that they do is they go back to his apartment, and she knew in her mind that it was going to lead down to this, have dinner and then go to his apartment and have sex, basically. But before that happens, he's like, okay, first I need to show you something. I need to show you my playroom. And she takes it kind of literally like a child's playroom. Oh, what? Do you have like video games in there, or do you have, anything else in there? He's like, no. And he shows her, and he takes her in, and it's all basically bondage and S&M things. There's, of course, a bed with clamps and with, like, handcuffs attached to it. There's, I think there's, like, a cross against the wall that it can be used for, that they can hang from. There's carabiners, things similar to what mountain climbers use, attached to ceilings, and she asks what that was, and that's also for suspension. There's like ropes and cords and whips and things, and just kind of in that, like, and he's like, this is what I am, and this is what I do, and you can take it or leave it. And she's very interested in that, and she finds that alluring, and she's like, she considers she has kind of two people in her mind. Her inner goddess that's all like, yay, go ahead with this, and we're gonna do this, and woohoo, no holding back. And then there's another part of her that is kind of like a big mouth in her kind of conscience saying, you shouldn't do this. Are you really sure this is the guy for you? Are you really sure you're willing to get into this and, hit the ground running? So it's kind of these two people in her head vie for each other and vie for her decisions. So before they get going into this, he shows her a contract that he wants her to sign, and I'm going to read to you part of this contract. And again, the whole thing is way too long, and basically the beginning of it is saying, okay, this is what a dominant is, and this is what a submissive is, and these are the roles, or, this is what the dominant's going to do, this is what the submissive is going to do. But apart from that, in this particular contract, there are rules and things that he wants her to live by. And they were very interesting, and so that's why I thought I should read them. So I'm just going to start... with the rules. Obedience. The submissive will obey any instructions given by the dominant immediately, without hesitation or reservation, and in an expeditious manner. The submissive will agree to any sexual activity deemed fit and pleasurable by the dominant, excepting those activities that are outlined in hard limits. She will do so eagerly and without hesitation. Sleep. The submissive will ensure she achieves a minimum of 8 hours sleep a night when she is not with the dominant. Food. The submissive will eat regularly to maintain her health and well-being from a prescribed list of foods. The submissive will not snack between meals, with the exception of fruit. Clothes. During the term, the submissive will wear clothing only approved by the dominant. The dominant will provide a clothing budget for the submissive, which the submissive shall utilize. The dominant shall accompany the submissive in purchasing clothing on an ad hoc basis. If the dominant so requires, the submissive shall, during the term, wear adornments the dominant shall require, in the presence of the dominant, and at any other times the dominant deems fit. Exercise. The dominant shall provide the submissive with a personal trainer 4 times a week in hour-long sessions, at times to be mutually agreed between the personal trainer and the submissive. The personal trainer will report to the dominant on the submissive's progress. Personal hygiene or beauty. The submissive will keep herself clean and shaved and or waxed at all times. The submissive will visit a beauty salon of the dominant's choosing at times to be decided by the dominant and undergo whatever treatments the dominant sees fit. All costs will be met by the dominant. Personal safety. The submissive will not drink to excess, smoke, take recreational drugs, or put herself in any unnecessary danger. Personal qualities. The submissive will not enter into any sexual relations with anyone other than the dominant. The submissive will conduct herself in a respectable and modest manner at all times. She must recognize that her behavior is a direct reflection on the dominant. She shall be held accountable for any misdeeds, wrongdoings, and misbehavior committed when not in the presence of the dominant. Failure to comply with any of the above will result in immediate punishment, the nature of which shall be determined by the dominant. Okay, we talked about hard limits. These are hard limits. No acts involving fire play. No acts involving urination or defecation and the products thereof. No acts involving needles, knives, cutting, piercing, or blood. No acts involving gynecological medical instruments. No acts involving children or animals. No acts that will leave any permanent marks on the skin. No acts involving breath control. No activity that involves the direct contact of electric current, whether alternating or direct, fire or flames to the body. These are also soft limits. Soft limits, to be discussed and agreed between both parties. Does the submissive consent to masturbation, cunnilingus, fellatio, swallowing semen, vaginal intercourse, vaginal fisting, anal intercourse, or anal fisting? Does the submissive consent to the use of vibrators, butt plugs, dildos, other vaginal anal toys? Does a submissive consent to bondage with rope, bondage with leather cuffs, bondage with handcuffs, shackles, manacles, bondage with tape, bondage with other? Does the submissive consent to be restrained with hands bound in front, ankles bound, elbows bound, hands bound behind back, knees bound, wrists bound to ankles, binding or fixed items, furniture, etc., binding with spreader bar, or suspension? Does the submissive consent to be blindfolded? Does the submissive consent to be gagged? How much pain is the submissive willing to experience? Where 1 is likes intensity and 5 dislikes intensity, 1 through 5. Does the submissive consent to accept the following forms of pain, punishment, or discipline? Spanking, whipping, biting, genital clamps, hot wax, paddling, caning, nipple clamps, ice, or other methods of pain. So there you have an idea of what kind of things he's interested in and what kind of things he wants her to do. He admits to her that he is a control freak, and she notices that really fast, because he knows he's a stalker, basically, as she describes to him, because he knows where she is basically at all times, and he's like, I can track your phone, I can track your, whereabouts. So this is really really fearful for her, and but she's also turned on, which I don't understand that, and I'm not condoning this, or that's not my way, but to each their own. But um you you see her in multiple things. You see that they are in his playroom a couple times, and oh my gosh, everything is descriptive in this book. It's funny because the first time that they basically have sex, she's a virgin, and he's like, I didn't know this happened still, or I didn't know that this could happen. And so they end up making love, or basically kind of having sex, that you think is the normal way. And it seems that as she's going towards this side of kind of his likes and his preferences, he's going more to what she likes, where he's willing to work with her and willing to compromise on things that she only allows and that she doesn't allow. And he's like, what are you doing to me? You're changing me. And things like that. It's kind of funny that he does punish her a couple times, and that's not funny, but where she's in a lot of pain. But what I was going to say was kind of funny was that in kind of by the end of the book, she doesn't sign the contract as of yet, so their terms haven't started, but yet they're starting the dominant and submissive roles. And I'm imagining that in the second book and maybe in the third book, the contract will be signed, and you'll see way more of the S&M version of their sexual activity. So that's it. I liked it and I didn't like it. I guess I will finish the series, hopefully, or at least read the second book to see what happens. But I'm glad that I read it. And the next book that I'm going to read is the name Perfect by Ellen Hopkins. It's another one of those fun books that's told in poetry form. So that's it. I bid you all a farewell and happy reading.